My name is Donna Pelly. I'm the youngest of the 12 children that was born to Pauline Pelly and Joseph Pelly.
Well, my name is Judy Pelly. I'm the fourth oldest child of Pauline Pelly, who we're going to be featuring today.
My mother was originally a Musqueam, and Musqueam means bear, so we're from the Bear clan.
Growing up, I learned a lot about her. She was a storyteller and always let us know about some of the things that she endured as a child of. I believe my grandmother had about 18 children. She was married. Her father was Roy Musqueam and was a chief of Kisiku's for many, many years, and Pauline Musqueam. Her dad was a very traditional person, and her mother was a very strong, devout Catholic.
Like my father passed when I was 9 years old, so my mother was left with all these children at home after he passed, and she kept us in line. Like nobody ever disrespected her. She talked about the respect you have for your families, your children. We grew up with highly respecting our mother and recognizing that we were so blessed.
And then my mom, she followed the traditional way, just totally went there. She was decided that no, I don't want anything to do with Catholicism, and that maybe had to do with her residential school upbringing. She was forced into residential school when she was 6 years old. And as many times she told us some of the stories about how some of the horrible, horrendous things that happened to her in residential school.
We learned right and wrong through our culture, through our traditions, going to council dances, going to sweats. A lot of little lessons she taught us about. For example, if you seen $100 bill sitting there, do I take it or do I not? But the way she told us is that no, you don't. That's not yours to take, and there's consequences for that. So just leave it alone. So like little lessons like that were very valuable to me.
But she told us she also learned a lot of really good things in residential school. She became a very good person with cooking, her cooking skills as well as sewing.
So she raised 12 very strong, proud First Nations people, and she always talked about the future, their grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, children yet unborn.
Both of my parents really advocated to us how important our language and culture was. It was always, and Mom especially, she was such a strong advocate of especially language, and because language was culture, and that's what made us distinct people. If we didn't have a language, we weren't a nation, kind of thing.
Being a young girl, I used to travel around with her once in a while and watch her going to speak to people about alcohol and the impact it has on families and children. And I grew up watching her, and I really admired listening to her, and I saw that people would just sit and listen because she was very, when she'd speak, she spoke loud, and she was very, she didn't hold back. She just said things the way they were, and it's what I admired about her as well.
But Mom had never ever quit advocating for how important education was, how important treaties were, and always language and culture.
When I used to watch her speak, that really inspired me, and I was asked in high school, like, who's your role model? And I said my mother. Like, there's no big movie star or anybody out there that I have as a role model. I have my mother, and I always, to this day, I say the same thing.
I'm not sure what year she started. She became an elder at SIIT. She was there for about 15 years.
I asked her one time, what do you do when you go and speak? Like, how could you speak without writing anything down? She told me I'd speak from my heart and I pray. Before I speak, I always pray that my words are helpful. And she had a lot of strength. It's like she had no fear, and all attributed to her relationship with the Creator.
Because she was so outspoken as an elder there, they used her not only in an elder capacity, talking to students, but also to attend conferences all over, speaking all over. She became a very strong speaker at conferences all across Canada, and in some cases United States. AFN got to know her really well. Ovid Mercredi and people like that would get her to speak in Ottawa at the big national conferences.
Speaking had led her all over the place. Like, she traveled all over the States too. I still remember my parents traveling through the States. She'd go and speak there, and she'd always get requests as well to go to communities. And there was just many people that once they heard her speak, they wanted her. I want that lady to come speak at our reserve.
She never ever cared about any controversy. She stood up to everything. Like when she died, I was going to say actually was that she was buried in an RCMP tunic because she was an RCMP commissioner, and then the eulogy part of it was the RCMP commissioner, and he said, you know what, when we had our commission meetings, he said, Pauline was so respected by everyone. And he said, when I go anywhere, he said, people are scared of me. He said, the police, everybody, they're at attention and they're afraid of me. He said, but when we had our commission meetings, he said, when Pauline came in, he said, I was scared. I'd cringe. I didn't want to get on the wrong side.
She ended up working, she was an advisor to Ovid Mercredi when he was AFN. She advised him on things and treaty rights and all that. So she traveled around with him, and I think that was a really awesome thing. Like, I have a lot of respect for him as well, and to this day, like, I can talk to him and say, hey, remember Pauline? And oh yes, he's so happy to hear her name, and all he says is, you'll never meet anybody like Miss Pauline Pelly. There'll never be a person that could ever try to be her. It'll never ever be done. So I really felt good when he told me that, and just knowing that the influence she played within Saskatchewan and FSIN and SIT, and the impact that she made for a lot of young people.
There was a new MLA that spoke to a group of First Nations and really speaking down on them, and she apparently just attacked him and told him, how dare you come into Indian country and speak to us like this. You could just see that guy cringing as my mom was just giving him, just yelling at him. And at the end of his speech, apparently he said, you know what, all the things I said, I take those back. I'm going to work with Indian people, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Pelly to be one of the advisors of I'll form a committee, and I want her to be one of the advisors.
With that, I'm very proud of my heritage, of my Saulteaux heritage, my language, my culture, my traditions, and fortunately, I had her and my father in my life to teach me those values. She
was a very strong, outspoken, and never backed down from anybody. She didn't care about titles, she didn't care about anything, but she was also a very, very humble person. She several times people wanted to nominate her for awards, and Mom never got any awards. Just before her death, she wrote the following words for the SIT calendar. Education is vitally important to give us knowledge and skills to build a better future for our children and grandchildren. Our educational institutions must be firmly based on traditional cultural values. Traditional values such as respect for all people and all living things, a strong sense of family and community, caring, sharing, and encouraging
each other. Those are our most important values. We must cherish our values. She closed her speech with these words: "Today I am proud to be who I am. I am proud to be Soto, and I know my culture. I know my language. I will never, ever be ashamed of who I am."